Commissioner Wynn,
Here.
and is Commissioner House remote yet? Working on it.
I think we're.
Will be remote.
I think this is,
That's her.
Jen. This Jen was on too.
Commissioner Wynn,
Here.
and is Commissioner House remote yet?
How was that?
Working on it.
I think we're.
Will be remote.
I think this is,
That's her.
Jen. This Jen was on too.
Commissioner,
There, yeah, front and center.
Good,
I believe we're good.
excellent. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented in front of you?
We'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Do we have any further discussion at all? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next we are, oh, I'm so sorry, I should have said that was Meyer made the motion and Commissioner Cruz seconded that. So sorry, everyone. Now we're down to the public comment section. Do we have anyone that wishes to talk to the board? All right. Then we are down to consent agenda.
Wondering, do you want to just take a few seconds to explain anyone that every August we have the budget
Oh, yeah.
workshop right
Yeah,
before,
please.
that's all we were doing. We do that every year.
Yeah,
This month.
the work session that we had just prior to the board meeting is just to go over some preliminary numbers for the budget for the 2026-2027 school year. We also, as you walked in, many of you heard, we're always endlessly dealing with roof type things, and there's some roofing consultants that we've the kind of a subgroup has met with. So we kind of have a recommendation on that. Again, all of this to, to really be totally informed about what the board will be asking for from the taxpayers. So that's what was happening when you walked in. It wasn't, nothing was approved. It was just literally a work session. So just so you're aware, that's what was happening. Good. Next, we are down to the consent agenda, which the consent agenda is as follows. Approving the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of July 15th, 2026. Also the learning session of August 5th, 2026. Approve the July bills that are in your packet. We have grants and donations here. Raybrook has given for the middle school volleyball, also for middle school writing revolution, and also for high school students paint their parking spots.
Can I ask why there's no dollar figures?
That's usually the case with that organization. It's kind of like the dollar figures are.
They never disclosed the dollar figures?
Well,
They ask us not to.
Yeah,
Yes.
not publicly.
So
Okay.
we do that. And we have, there's other, the other side of the coin too. We've had times where we have dollar figures and it's an anonymous donor.
Absolutely.
We've seen that too. So we'll take money anyway. If anybody wants to give us money, we'll figure it out. But that's
Yeah, thank you.
that's the reasoning.
And maybe to that point, Commissioner Stark, when I first started, Raybrick did not want even a public mention in a meeting.
Sure, yeah.
Now over time, as some things have progressed, they're okay with the public mention, but they just would rather not.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's obviously very generous organization,
For sure.
and we know in our district,
Without a doubt.
kids and teachers have benefited greatly.
Next, elementary playgrounds received $500 from Road Oil and $500 from Jandu Oil. Staff incentives from Ace Hardware, $40. And thanks to all the groups and individuals associated with their generosity on this. Resignations and retirements, we had Sierra Wilcox has resigned from her associate position in the high school. Jenna McCoy has also resigned from her associate position in the high school. We thank these individuals for service and wish them well in their next adventures. Then 0.5 board policy review. This is second reading. Again, this was all in your packet. We have A 0144.5 board member behavior, communication, and code of conduct. We all brush up on that. Point B 1213/33213 and 4213, which is all student supervision and welfare. Point C, 5136, which is personal communication devices. Point D, 7530.02, staff and school officials' use of personal communication devices. Point E, 7540.02, digital content and accessibility. Point F, 7540.03, student technology accessible use and safety. Point G, 7544, use of social media. Point H, 8120, volunteer, which is a volunteers section. And then point I, 8462, child abuse and neglect. These are all, again, second readings that were in the packet. A motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented is recommended.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Meyer to approve the consent agenda as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're down to the operations agenda, which starts with the background for operational referendum resolutions.
Yeah, thank you, President Stefani. So, this is an introduction for operations agenda items 2 and 3, right? Which the board knows, and again, for anyone who hasn't read the background document, right? They're both connected when it deals with the upcoming replacement educational programming operational referendum, right? So this is the little intro, and then we'll go and I'll read some resolutions here. As you know, the one is quite short, the other is long. Number 2 is short, number 3 is long. But here we go. All right. For the record, as discussed in a variety of learning sessions and meetings, this month is the deadline for approving a referendum resolution to appear on the November 3rd, 2026 election ballot. The current 5-year revenue limit override operational referendum expires at the end of this 2026-2027 fiscal year. This means that in order to be able to continue to offer quality education to our students, families, and community, we need to continue it to analyze costs, staffing, programs, etc., and come back to our taxpayers and community members with this request. Not doing so would cause massive cuts in addition to the various cuts and reductions from past years and jeopardize the future of our educational system. While there are various reasons for reductions the district has made in the past, ranging from reduced enrollment, the changes at the state level and more, the reality is that we've eliminated positions, made changes to employee benefits, and reduced staff take-home pay, yet still find ourselves needing an operating referendum in order to avoid those cuts that would permanently impact the quality of the education we offer, frankly, if not the future of both the school district and then the community. It's important to note that it's not due to mismanagement or reckless spending or addition of a bunch of programs, but rather is a current reality of navigating revenue limits that we all know were put into place back in the 1993-94 school year. Many school districts find themselves in a similar situation, need to go to their respective communities for operational referenda. Here in Sturgeon Bay, we have the unique mixture of a relatively small amount of equalized value in our district, combined with a larger student population than, again, some of the other neighboring districts here, who then have also more property value than we have. As a result of the administration and board study, input from the community through a survey, we generated in spring, technically the survey was in summer, variety of the different projection scenarios and our past experience of having held in past educational programming operational referenda in 2007, 2010, 2013, 2016, 2019, and 2022, we now come to the point of needing to approve a resolution, really 2 resolutions, to meet the statutory timelines for appearance on the November 3rd, 2026 ballot, right? So there's the introduction that we've historically done. Now I'll go, President Stefani, okay, we just keep going?
Yes.
Operations agenda item number 2, titled Approve Resolution Authorizing the School District Budget to Exceed Revenue Limit by $3,750,000 per year for 5 years for non-recurring purposes. As noted in the sample ballot from Quarles and Brady, and again, we know there's a connection to the next agenda item 2, the recommendation is to approve a resolution authorizing the school district to exceed the revenue limit specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes by $3,750,000 per year for 5 years, beginning with the 2027-2028 school year and ending with the 2031-2032 school year for non-recurring purposes consisting of operational expenses, including funding educational programming for students and teacher and staff compensation. All right, we have the next paragraph, but why don't I, for the official record, again, we'll be looking for a motion. As you know, I will read from the separate package you have, again, document directly from Quarles and Brady. For anyone who doesn't know what that looks like, we use the Quarles and Brady draft ballot that the board looked at last week and past referenda as Mrs. Demise and I assemble the first run at the background document. And then once the documents like you have in the packet come from Quarles and Brady, right, we read right from that. All right, so I will now read this one paragraph on this resolution for operations agenda item number 2. Be it resolved by the school board of the school district of Sturgeon Bay, Door County, Wisconsin, that the revenues included in the school district budget be authorized to exceed the revenue limit specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statute by $3,750,000 per year for 5 years, beginning with the 2027-2028 school year and ending with the 2031-32 school year for non-recurring purposes consisting of operational expenses, including funding, educational programming for students, and teacher and staff compensation. So that is the wording of that resolution. Be looking for someone to make a motion accordingly, please.
I will make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the school district to exceed the revenue limit specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes by $3,750,000 per year for 5 years, beginning with the 2027-2028 school year and ending with the 2031-2032 school year for non-recurring purposes consisting of operational expenses, including funding, educational programming for students and teacher and staff compensation.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wynn, seconded by Commissioner Starr to approve the ballot language that shall, I think this is important, I should read this, shall the school district of Sturgeon Bay, Door County, Wisconsin be authorized to exceed the revenue limits specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes by $3,750,000 for per year for 5 years, beginning with the 2027-28 school year and ending with the 2031-2032 school year for non-recurring purposes consisting of operational expenses, including funding educational programming for students, teachers, and staff compensation. Further discussion?
Could you just verbally verify the dollar figure again?
Yes, $3,750,000.
Thank you.
I will say something just to, just so everyone understands out there that this is not, what is our current, it's 3.8 this year.
This year, we are allowed to take 3.8 million.
Yes.
I expect that we will not take all of that by a decent amount.
Yeah, so I guess the point is this is not different, it's not that your taxes are not gonna increase wildly because of this, because it's already there.
And a point to be made that the original idea was 3.5, and we added $250,000 of that based off of the survey to provide higher salaries for our teachers and staff.
Yes.
If I may just throw in, even though we'll be covering it later in the agenda, that survey result report that you all heard the report on a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, by Bill Foster from School Perceptions, that has been placed on our website. So anyone is welcome to access that information. And we know within this group, right, the board takes that community survey information very seriously. There was not support for the $4 million figure per year, the additional mains, et cetera. So the board listened, did not pursue that. Instead, we focused on what was there for support, just as we've done with the 2 previous surveys that have led to past referenda. I think to your point, President Stefani, Bill Foster shared with the group that our district would be a very small percentage of districts that are not making a referendum ask that's increasing from the previous ask. Right, I think that's part of the point I know you wanted to make, right?
Yes.
When we talked about that with Bill 2 weeks ago tonight, in Alumni Hall and had some community guests in attendance. He made that point. And again, he's someone who makes a living going around helping districts and going to a lot of board meetings, and that he pointed out how unique that is. So that's a positive thing as well.
Any other comments, or can I call the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Should we do roll call on this?
If it's unanimous, I think, okay.
Okay. Because it was
Was there anybody
unanimous.
opposed?
No. Allison was an aye as well. Yes, that's kind of later.
You gotta go to space.
Excellent. All right, thank you. We are now down to the next point, approving teacher associate.
No.
What am I doing?
Number 3, that's right.
Yep, number 3.
You're waiting for me to say the word whereas several times.
Yeah, I like the whereas.
You know, that's one of my
I love
my
that.
favorite words of
Yeah.
the former English teacher.
Yes.
All right, so to the notes first, and then I'll go to the resolution available to us and certainly our guests in the audience as well. So number 3 says approve resolution providing for a referendum election on the question of approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by 3.75 million per year for 5 years for non-recurring purposes. All right, so again, on the notes here, I'll just start with this, then we'll move over. Again, please see the meeting handout for the complete resolution. You know, you also have in your packet what the board was able to see and discuss last week with the sample ballot. We plan to get that sample ballot after tonight's board meeting, probably, hopefully by even tomorrow, out on our district website on the referendum information page so people can see that. And as we know, and again, we'll talk later in the meeting, we'll be adding more resources as we go. So what I'll do is I'll leave the background document language for the moment, even though yes, we'll be looking for a motion, and I will go to the packet itself, right? This resolution, as we recall from past referenda, is longer. And yes, has some whereases. So this is pretty official though, so I will read not every word of this, but I will touch on each section just so there's no question for the record what it is that is before the board before we continue with the meeting. All right, so at the top, you know, the title is resolution providing for a referendum election of the questions on the approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by 3.75 million or $3,750,000, whichever way you prefer to hear it, per year for 5 years for non-recurring purposes. So first of all, here we go. Whereas the school board of the school district of Sturgeon Bay, Door County, Wisconsin has heretofore duly adopted a resolution entitled Resolution Authorizing the School District Budget to Exceed Revenue Limit by $3,750,000 per year for 5 years for non-recurring purposes. And whereas the school board deems it desirable and in the best interest of the district to direct the district clerk to submit to the revenue limit resolution to the electors for the approval or rejection at the regularly scheduled election to be held on November 3rd, 2026. Now therefore, be it resolved by the school board of the district as follows. Section 1, referendum election date. The district clerk is hereby directed to call a referendum election to be held in the district at the regularly scheduled election to be held on November 3rd, 2026 for the purpose of submitting to the qualified electors of the district the proposition of whether the revenue limit resolution shall be approved. Next section. Section 2, notice to electors. The district clerk is hereby or is directed to give notice by A, causing a notice of election in substantially the form attached hereto as Exhibit A, also in our packet, to be published in the Peninsula Pulse in the issue of published immediately prior to the 4th Tuesday before the referendum election. Letter B, causing a notice of referendum, which includes the facsimile of the sample ballot in substantially the form attached hereto as Exhibit B. Again, more info, to be published in the Peninsula Pulse in the issue published immediately preceding the referendum election. This notice shall also be posted in each polling place on election day. Moving on to the next paragraph. If any of the municipalities within the district use an electronic voting system employing a ballot label and ballot card, the notice of referendum set forth in Exhibit B shall also include a true, actual size copy of the ballot label and ballot card in the form they will appear on election day. Next section, section 3, polling places and hours. The district electors must vote at the referendum election at the times and polling places at which they cast their ballots in regularly scheduled elections. I'll call a super quick timeout here. Mrs. Demise has gone through between now and our last referendum, because as many of us know with redistricting, a lot of the polling places and things were reshuffled. So that is information she has that is going on to our updated frequently asked questions document, right? We don't control the polling places. We are going to be sharing updated information for those who may want it. I'll go back to the resolution. Section 4, referendum election officials. The election officials appointed in each of the municipalities within the district shall conduct the election. Again, standard there. Let's flip over to the next page. Section 5, official referendum ballot form. The ballot to be used at the referendum election shall be prepared in accordance with the provisions of sections 5.64 parent 2 and 7.08 parent 1 parent A Wisconsin statute. The ballot shall be substantially in the form attached hereto as Exhibit C. Again, more information. Next paragraph, the district clerk shall cause to be printed sufficient ballots for use at said referendum election, both as actual ballots in those polling places which do not use voting machines, and as absentee ballots where voting machines are used as specimen ballots, the latter to be of a different and easily identifiable color from the actual ballot. The form of the ballot shall be filed with the official reasonable for providing the ballots for this election, and the district clerk shall file a copy of the ballot with the clerk of each county having territory within the district as soon as possible after the date hereto or hereof, but in no event later than 70 days prior to the election, as provided in section 8.37 Wisconsin statutes. If the district prepares the ballots, notice the if, they should be delivered to the municipal clerks running the election at least 52 days prior to the election to allow the municipal clerks to comply with their obligation to provide absentee ballots under section 7.15 Wisconsin statutes. Next paragraph. The municipal clerks of the municipalities within the district shall receive applications for absentee ballots and initial the same when issued to qualified absentee voters. Final section and paragraph on this page, canvass. The return, section 6, canvass, the returns of the referendum election shall be canvassed by the Board of Canvassers of each municipality within the district. Each Board of Canvassers shall certify the returns of the referendum election to the district clerk, and 2 other reputable citizens appointed by the district clerk prior to the date of the referendum election shall act as the district's Board of Canvassers for this referendum election. This Board of Canvassers shall meet in open session no later than 9 a.m. on the Tuesday after the election to determine the results of the referendum election. The canvass shall be open to the public, and the district clerk is directed to give due notice of said meeting. Last page, just the one section here, section 7, DPI notice. Pursuant to the provisions of section 121.91 parent 3 Wisconsin statutes, the district clerk shall notify the Department of Public Instruction of the date of the referendum election and shall provide the department with copies of the revenue limit resolution within 10 days after the adoption of the revenue limit resolution, and shall further notify the department of the results of the referendum within 10 days following the election using the methods prescribed by the department. Adopted and recorded today, August 19th, 2026. And you see a couple of blanks there. We'll be hitting up President Stefani and Clerk Cruz for signatures once we're wrapped up with the regular meeting tonight. So at this point, President Stefani, we'd be looking for a motion to approve this resolution as presented.
I will make a motion to approve the ballot language as shall the school district of Sturgeon Bay, Door County, Wisconsin be authorized to exceed the revenue limit specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes by $3,750,000 per year for 5 years, beginning with the 2027-2028 school year and ending with the 2031-2032 school year for non-recurring purposes consisting of operational expenses, including funding educational programming for students and teacher and staff compensation.
For a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and second. We have a motion by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Strickler to approve the ballot language, which is shall the school district of Sturgeon Bay, Door County, Wisconsin be authorized to exceed the revenue limit specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes by $3,750,000 per year for 5 years, beginning with the 2027 and 2028 school year and ending with the 2031-2032 school year for non-recurring purposes consisting of operational expenses, including funding educational programming for students and teacher and staff compensation. Further discussion? All's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Allison, could you say yours again?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Now, we are down to approved teacher associates.
If I may just comment, President Stefani, so there's a lot of legalese in there beyond the typical night. Let's be honest, and that's where, again, to be clear, We work closely with our friend Allison Buchanan at Quarles and Brady down in Milwaukee. Some of you either have or will meet her at convention someday, and met her, I think, 2 years ago, right?
I may have
Yeah.
hugged her.
Yeah. Allison and then her team members walk districts through this process to make sure all the language, the resolutions, the ballot, all the notices, right? You hear what we share with the Penn Pulse certain times to make sure we're on top of all of that. Mrs. Demise understandably gets nervous about that, but we appreciate her attention to detail and we appreciate Allison making sure that, hey, no, you guys are on top of it and we are good to go right there. That's right. All right, now we'll move on. All right, we got a couple staff members to approve tonight here on the teacher associate category. I don't know, one name might even sound a little more familiar than the other. So first of all, 4A, Madison Star, Principal Katie Smullen and Special Ed Director Lindsay Ferry are excited to welcome Sturgeon Bay High School graduate and former Sunrise student as well, Maddie Starr, who will work as a special education teaching associate in 5th grade. Maddie graduated with honors from UW Green Bay and is currently working on her master's degree in counseling from UW Superior. Her background of working with children at the Door Child Development Center will serve her well, in addition to her positivity and kindness, which really impressed the interview team. A motion to approve Madison Starr as special education teacher associate at Sunrise Elementary School beginning with the 2026-2027 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Madison Starr as a special education teacher associate at Sunrise School, beginning with the 26-27 school year.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Wynn to approve Madison Starr as a special education teacher associate at Sunrise School beginning with the 2026-2027 school year. Further discussion?
I would just like to remark that while I think it will be an excellent fit, I will abstain from the vote.
Yes, okay, yes. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we have one
Abstention.
abstention. Thank you. Next, we have another.
Yep, 4B, Danelle Mikolacek, Director of Special Education and Pupil Services Lindsay Ferry, and Principal Katie DeVillers are pleased to welcome Danelle Mikolacek for the Special Education Teacher Associate position over at Sawyer Elementary School. Danelle has previously worked as a Special Education Teacher Associate in a neighboring district in Southern Door and will no doubt bring her experience and passion for students to our district here in Sturgeon Bay. Excited to welcome her to the team. A motion to approve Danelle Mikolacek as a Special Education Teacher Associate at Sawyer Elementary School beginning with the 2026-2027 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Danelle Mikolacek as a special education associate at Sawyer School, beginning with the 26-27 school year. I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Meyer to approve Danelle Mikolacek as a special education teacher associate at Sawyer School beginning with the 2026-2027 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Now we're down to approving a food service employee.
Yes. Director Spooty helps us out here. Pleased to welcome Sarah Olson into the food service team. Sarah has had and will have students in our school district. She'll be replacing Jackie Snow, who moved into maintenance in August. She will take on a full-time position, filling Jackie's vacated position and also some of Connie Gordon's hours. Connie, as you would recall, retired at the end of the 25-26 school year. Sarah will lead our breakfast programs and prep/serve lunch at the high school and middle school. Share her friendly smile with each of her students and staff members throughout the day. Jenny adds, you might know Sarah from her years of service with the local U.S. Postal Service. For years, Jenny would see her delivering mail through the city and thought to herself, she must be the happiest post office employee ever, in all caps. A motion to approve Sarah Olson as a member of our food service team is recommended.
I'll move to approve Sarah Olson as a member of the food service team.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wynn, seconded by Commissioner Starr to approve Sarah Olson as a member of our food service team. Further discussion?
I can't think of a better person to serve breakfast. She's the happiest, smiliest person you've ever seen. She's wonderful. So I think the kids are gonna benefit from her,
Positivity.
yeah, her sunny disposition.
That's great. Anything else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Hi.
Now,
Hi.
oh, thank you, Allison. Sorry. It's a little delayed. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I have a little delay on my end. Sorry about that.
No, that's great. Thank you for being here.
So what happens when you're in northern Minnesota, I suppose.
Yeah,
There's a little tech delay.
You know, mine.
I
am-
am mine.
I am really in the sticks, so thank you guys for accommodating.
Well, now we're down to, point 6, approve roofing and maintenance consultant, which many of you may have heard when we were walking in, but we were discussing that.
Yeah, I'll touch on the notes and then we can kind of depart from a little bit since we left it open-ended depending on the conversation earlier. All right, but for the record, right, as again, the board knows this well, going back to last winter, there's been even more discussion around roofing than usual, as well as maintenance projects, funding strategies, depending on how we choose to proceed and much more. On July 29th, Wayne Spritka, John Sullivan, Jake Holtz, and I met with 4 consultants who are interested in supporting district maintenance projects and planning in one way or another. We felt we had at least one strong option focused specifically on the roofing management side, and another strong option focused on the more expansive approach, certainly including roofing, as well as other potential larger facility study processes moving forward. As part of the August 12th school board work session, we discussed the process and options before us, and of course, talked about it further this evening, August 19th, with input from Commissioner Spritka, who of course works with this in his important role with the county. So we had it worded as a motion to approve a consultant is anticipated. Maybe I'll just kind of pause here since we just had some discussion, although not as a part of this meeting. We want to start with the ability for someone to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve PSI as the consultant, the roofing consultant services.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Wynn, seconded by Commissioner Spritka to approve PSI as our roofing consultant. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
We need to amend that to roofing and maintenance.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Okay.
Or 2 separate motions, I suppose, I don't know.
Or theoretically, great question. We could go with the roofing now, just to move that forward. And then we could follow up with them and maybe bring back a sample like the MOU
Long-term.
to really formally approve that, because either way, you would want us to develop or work with them to develop that. If we give them the go-ahead, thank you for asking that, Jake. We could just move forward on the roofing piece, so that gets going and John Sullivan and everything's rolling. And then we can, of course, let PSI know what's going on. We can work with them, and then we could get something that we could bring back for your approval maybe next month.
And that's not gonna like hurt any, like PSI is not gonna look at that question,
Nope.
why we did one or the other, okay.
Not my sense based on the discussion we had had. I had talked to their representative about several questions that you saw in my little email write-up. The next day at a conference, just like, hey, we have some interest, but we also have some questions, and they were very responsive. And like Jake said, they were in contact just in the last 24 hours again, when Jake reached out for some clarification.
So to reiterate the motion on the floor, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'm just making sure. Commissioner Wind made the motion to approve PSI as a roofing consultant.
Well, you have to, if you don't, that's what I said, but if we want to amend it, then we have to make a
I know,
motion to amend.
But that's the motion on the
That's
floor,
fine.
and that was second.
Yes, it was.
So,
And I think based on the discussion,
Yeah,
we seem to be
fine.
okay.
yeah, correct.
So I'll
And
ask.
then we can bring the other piece back.
All right, so all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Here, and now we're down to point 12, or point 7.
Yes, this is really an informational item. I won't read this all to you. You just sat through a very lengthy resolution, as did our audience here. So if you don't already know, Wisconsin Act 12 requires public high schools to collect and maintain statistics regarding different types of incidents. A year ago, you heard a little bit more about this for the first time. All right, so there's a process and a link and all this information, so I took care of that. Officer Jenner John was in contact. Again, Officer Jenner John is working right for the PD over the summer. And so based on the initial communications we had, I indicated that we did not have any issues. We thought there was a question or two, but nothing rose to the level, which in most cases is a pretty high level. It did come, Mrs. Demise and I touched base today that we did get some information from Officer Jenner John that we did have a situation with a student being under the influence of alcohol at an off-campus dance. All right, so just for clarity, I reached out to the specific person at DPI who sends the schools the different links. I couldn't get back into the link to see if it was possible to amend that. So I sent her a message today to say, hey, and I had been in contact with her before about our transition at the principal position, getting through this year, et cetera. And she was very responsive. So today I sent her the update. I haven't heard anything else from her yet, but I said, if there's anything else I need to do, if that does rise to the level and that needs to get entered, if there's anything I need to do, or if she can take care of it, that'll be done. So a little more detail than you normally worry about. But in this day and age, we thought, hey, try letting you all know what's going on. So no board action is needed, but there's the update. I thought just verbally I would cover for you right now. Did I cover everything there we can think of, Ann? All right. That was it.
So next we're down to approve the strategic action plan for 26-27.
Yeah, and again, I'll just kind of summarize this since the board sees this so often. So, going all the way back to the 2017 board retreat, we've looked at some different things, not only in how we structure the annual retreat, but on how we really look at our priority areas, right? We know we have teaching and learning as priority area number one, as it should be, with a kind of consistent list of points underneath that. We have community engagement as really that second priority area, which we know is very important every year, not just a referendum year, even though the community survey was a big part of what we put in that for this year. And we know that third bucket or priority area, which was initially going to be third and fourth, those were combined into that finance, facilities, and operations, right? How that's all together. So the admin team reviews this, you have input. This helps us stay focused and not chase a bunch of different, even if well-intended things throughout the year. And so really, again, we had kind of it's not really a first reading, but we had a look at it last month. And now what we typically have the board do is just give a stamp of approval to this. I will summarize it in the opening kickoff presentation as I have the past number of years for all staff. So I'll skip down to the bottom. A motion to approve the strategic action plan for 2026-2027 is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve the strategic action plan for 2026-2027.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Meyer and seconded by Commissioner Cruz to approve the strategic action plan for 2026-2027. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I don't,
Allison, can you hear us?
Allison, can you hear us? We might have lost her.
They dropped Jen before.
I can see her on here, but it might just be a weak signal. Oh, so.
All right, well, and opposed? None opposed? We have a quorum, so motion carried. Next we are to, point 9, which is just informational regarding the replacement educational programming operational referendum plan for November 3rd, 2026.
Yes, obviously the board took action on that tonight. So back to the notes. As we did in our June and July board meetings, we're providing an informational update on this educational programming operational referendum plan for November 3rd, 2026. After the, again, have this meeting, 76 days is kind of, not that I'm keeping track. Okay, so that's where I must have gotten interrupted there. Forgot to include the word days on my update. I'll have to clean that up before we put it on the website. By this point in the agenda, we anticipate the board has acted on the 2 related resolutions, which indeed you did. Rather than deal with those details, since we've already talked about that, we'll focus on the community survey final report from school perceptions and how we've launched a dedicated page on our website where we've begun to add referendum related materials. Next paragraph, as the board knows, I sent the board and our local media partners at Door County Daily News, the Peninsula Pulse, and WDOR, the community survey report, as well as some of the key points to assist them in reading through all the slides in that report by, again, Bill Foster and his team. As of the evening of August 11th, when I had updated this part of the background document before we sent it out, I had done interviews with Tim Coles at Door County Daily News and Eleanor Corbin at the Peninsula Pulse. Community survey report has been posted to our new referendum information page on our website. The page can be found by clicking on the referendum info red circle underneath the rotating pictures on our website. Once on the referendum information page, a person can click on Spring 2026 survey results, which will take them immediately to the survey report prepared by School Perceptions, right? That same survey report you've seen. I have a note that while the survey was open to the community in summer, we began working through the School Perceptions in late spring, hence how Bill has it labeled that way. Next paragraph. At this time, we also have a copy of the survey itself that went out to residents in case anyone wants to take a look, as well as the letter that went out to district families alerting them to the survey that they would soon receive. We also, when I wrote this, we plan to add, it is now on there, the May 26th press release about adoption of the master plan to modernize a community hub without school tax dollars, right? That's that Memorial Park, right? We know we've heard from folks that just want to make sure it's clear that that is not a part of the operational referendum, which you and I know it absolutely is not a part of that. So we went back to that press release, which puts that in black and white. That is right on our website for any and all to see. I know we talked about that with some of our guests 2 weeks ago in the August 5th session. Going back to the notes, it lays out clearly how it would and would not be funded, just as we've covered in many meetings with local media, conversations with residents, and more. Next paragraph, in the weeks ahead, we'll continue to update the frequently asked questions document, as well as the shortened version of the document that will also be posted, as well as shared with families, among others. Next, I anticipate working with board members to have a double team presentation. President Stefani plans to join me and we'll, because he's also a Noon Rotary member, and we'll double team them. I don't know if there'll be a guitar involved or not.
No guitar involved.
No, we teased that with Tanya Fellhofer, who was helping me schedule a date that we could, that worked for Rotary as well as Mike and me in October. We plan to have, so anyway, so we have an October Thursday. I forget offhand which one it is since I typed this, but we've got it. Yeah, I think she's got us on the 3rd Thursday. But if the first Thursday opens up, she'll bump us up there. Correct. If something changes. So anyway, we do have that on the books. And then if anyone is potentially interested and or has a contact at the ADRC, once upon a time that was Jess Holland, who of course doesn't work there anymore and hasn't for some time. But we'll make contact, and maybe if a board member is interested in joining me over a lunch hour at the ADRC, I have done a presentation there for, I believe, our 2 previous referenda. I could be wrong on the number. I'm getting old, maybe it's 3 already, I'm not sure. So anyway, we also know that although very early, right, you just approved the resolution tonight, we are planning on a community session in this very room, the evening of October 7th. So to talk, right, eventually we'll put some slides together, etc. After our scheduled school board learning session that you and I know will focus on budget and some, getting ready for the tax levy and all that approval that will come in October. Usually that month in our learning session, we touch on the school calendar, right? Won't surprise you, I have 2 drafts all ready to go for next year that I've sent out to some teacher reps for input. And then we'll try to keep that learning session fairly brief so we can then go into some sort of community session and be able to engage with folks. So haven't set a start time yet, but again, admittedly, you just approved the resolution tonight. Last paragraph for now. Finally, at least for this month, a fall issue of the Clipper Connection newsletter should run in the October 16th, 2026 edition of the Peninsula Pulse. We plan to have some related information in the newsletter, as well as, of course, our usual approach to tell people about the referendum information, as well as tell people about the referendum information page on our website. I jumped ahead to the next sentence. We'll also look to focus on the good things our students and staff are doing as usual. We're not going to spend the entire issue on the referendum, even though we know that's critically important, right? A lot of what the community wants to know is, hey, what are the good things teachers and kids are doing? That's where that newsletter comes in. But again, I'm kind of picturing maybe a visual and then maybe a brief piece. So people, if they don't already know to go to the website for more information. And again, at that point, that will cover kind of some of the early voting folks. They'll have that access before that. So that kind of is in a nutshell what we're doing. So this makes 3 months in a row now. We've had, as an official part of this meeting, informational updates, and we will continue that again in September and October as we have different outreach efforts. I did mention, you've seen this in an email, but while I'm talking here yet, if there are any groups that would be interested potentially in as simple as questions or maybe a presentation, I did tell Tim Coles and Eleanor Corbin that, feel free to share that. I am going to be on WDOR on Tuesday, my usual back to school call-in show. We'll do the high school staff meeting, and then I'll pop over there in time for that. And then I will offer on the program as well. If someone's interested in presentation, to let me know. I plan to focus a little bit on the start of school, as we should this time of year. Our new teacher hires, right? We have 3 of them, 2 of whom are alums. So I will talk a little bit about them, a little bit about the start of the year, but then my plan is to talk about the community survey, some of the high points there, as well as any listener can access that on the website, which I think I've now said several times just tonight, right? As well as talk about the fact that, yes, now the board has approved a resolution and some of the high point information, and a little bit more about what we assume we'll be sharing over the coming, 76 days. Good.
Thank you. A lot right
Thanks.
there.
Well,
I like community hub too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
next we are to reports, and I don't know if anyone has legislative or CISA reports, anyone?
I think legislative, everything's just waiting until the gubernatorial election.
Exactly.
Right? Once the next governor's known, then I think we'll be hearing a lot.
There is committees and seminars. I'm actually gonna speak to one thing because I think we've had a member come to our learning session and talk to us about this, but this is about the whole TID situation. We have to have the taxing authorities need to have someone on the city's TIF joint review board. So I've been going as the president of the board, I go to that. The Southern Door superintendent was there for Southern Door. We had the county supervisor was there for the county. Oddly enough, NWTC had no one there. They were not present. There's a community at large member that is there. Bill Shedwar, the old executive director, so he was there. And also, well, anyway, there's this cross section of people. So if something is in our district, I vote on it. If it's not in our district, for example, I'll give you, one of the Southern Door, the TID 7, which is the Aldi's and that whole thing that's happening. I do not vote on that because that revenue, that TID impact is not our district. Okay, so we did have some things voted on, and the biggest thing would be TID 12, which TID 12 is the new TID, which is a kind of off of County U and goes on Division Road. I have a map of it, but it goes up to all the way to the kind of the dog park area of that, and it kind of is encompassing there. Now, TID 12, the plan on this is that, 22 duplex units would be built there, 30 workforce housing units would be built there. There's gonna be some improvements, obviously, to the planned park. There's gonna be some stuff done with the Anopi Trail. There's infrastructure that has to go in there. The way these, I'm gonna be very rudimentary on this, the way these work, and this is just for anyone watching at home, is that vacant land, which is been here, I've been in this area for 20 years now. Been coming up here my whole life. That land's been vacant the entire time. And this TID formation is going to take this vacant land, put it into the TID. And it does not include, incidentally, the waste business that's there. That's not in this TID. It's right around that. So I just think it's important that everybody understands that this land was not generating tons of tax revenue for our district or anything. And Jake, our business manager, was also at this meeting, in case we needed to speak to anything, which we did not as far as the TID goes. Now, there are some things that are floating around, like there's storage buildings that may be built in this area. I think it's important that everybody understands that some things that are floating around social media and stuff are just not accurate. The storage buildings will get absolutely zero from the TID. If a developer builds these storage units, they're gonna have to buy the land from this TID, and they're gonna incur all of the expense to build these things. So the TID is not funding, the city's not funding building storage units. So it's important, that's important to throw out there.
And
Also, yes, sir.
And that includes if those storage units are classified as a condo and sold individually for individual ownership?
That is my understanding, yes. But yes.
Cool,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
but now, but the key thing here is I'm focusing on, the Geneva Ridge subdivision, which has workforce housing. And remember, I said there was 30 units of workforce housing on here. Those are sold out. Those are now sold out. Our occupancy rate in the city is for the vacancy rate on apartment buildings, because we've all heard comments, oh boy, we need another apartment building. Well, it's under 3% for vacancy rate in these apartment buildings, which is telling me that it still is needed. I'm gonna go back in time and just some years ago, we had a teacher that, I'm sorry, he's sick of me saying this story, but it's
Never heard you
true.
tell it. Okay.
So we had a teacher that started with us that happened to be from Marinette and like that area. They were driving all the way down that side and driving all the way up the peninsula for more than half a year because they couldn't find anywhere to live in this town.
They swam in the summer.
They swam in the summer. So with all of that said, this did pass unanimously, and I'm just telling you, the board, I did vote for this, as did everyone else in the room that was voting. So what Jake covered earlier, the TID that's expiring and tax dollars coming back, once the TID gets through its life cycle, it becomes back on the tax road, and then that money does conceivably more tax revenue than a vacant piece of farmland, which it now is. So that I want everybody to understand why I voted yes for it. Those are all I think the yes are more, and I do understand some of we absolutely had some nice points brought up by a individual from the community, and I respect that. There's a thought, well, why can't this just grow organically without developmental, money given?
Municipal money.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Hey, Mike.
personally, yes,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there kind of a standard time frame before the TID becomes taxable, or is it negotiated on a TID by TID basis? And how
It is TID
long
by-
before TID 12 would become?
20 years. 20 years. What's that? Oh, if you can hear, that's the answer. So for that one. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. There was Southern, a couple of different things that were approved by Southern Door for their thing. There was an additional thing, just a little bit of outline of land in TID number 9, which is the industrial park. So anyway, that's all I just think, because it is and has become something that's out in the community right now and people are talking about it. I thought it would be very important for me at least mention that meeting that I was at. Yes, sir.
And as we all represent the public who voted for us.
Correct.
Was there a lot of opposition to TIDs at that meeting?
I believe Well, there was one person which we spoke to that came to our learning session.
Yeah.
And they spoke too, they allow, normally they don't take public comments, but she asked to speak, so the whole body said, sure. So she spoke, and then there was a person sitting next to her that I believe was not liking it based on body language. But then there were other folks in the audience, 3 people to my right. There weren't many people there altogether.
Sure.
That were definitely for it. So this was not a contentious.
There was not allowed no vote.
No, there was
Or
nobody
no
carrying
vote.
signs,
Yeah.
there was nobody, it was nothing like that.
Yep, thank you.
So that's it. And Jake, you were there, would you
There
agree with
were
that
there was
assessment?
10 people there. 2 of us were from school districts, myself and then a Southern Door principal. I believe it was 3 people from a local construction company, a couple reporters. And then the 2 that Mike mentioned, one that spoke, one that seemed to be in the same camp, let's not do this camp.
Yeah.
So.
So that's it, that's all I needed to cover on that.
Maybe on that topic, Jake, do you wanna, or maybe that transitions to
This
Jake?
transition's great.
We did a little brainstorming, because we knew we had gotten a little consternation, go for it.
Yeah, so there has been some misinformation that got out there and has been shared specifically on TV that TIDs decrease the revenue that we get. That is false. That is not correct. And I spoke to the person who spoke at the joint review board and was at our meeting last week. But to that, to make sure we nip any of that misinformation in the bud, we are planning a September 2nd information session for the public. Working title, if you will, how do TIDs affect school districts? And then how school districts are actually budgeted or actually get their money. And I spoke with the head of the Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials, Mike Berry. He is planning to come up to present at that. Wanted to make sure, right, if we could bring somebody in from outside of the school district, outside of the area, who has a lot of knowledge of this. Mike was the business manager at Madison Metropolitan School District for a number of years. And he shared with me at one point they were going TID crazy, perhaps they still are. And so he has a lot of experience with this, with TIDs. And so he is planning to come up. I think tentatively we're looking at 6:30 on the night of Wednesday, September 2nd, opening it to the community for them to hear about how TIDs impact school districts and how school districts are funded. If we have the opportunity, I know at 2 weeks ago, the learning session was brought up, hey, if we could do a couple more opportunities for people to come in and learn about school funding, the referendum, that would be great. Kind of dovetailing into that via this conversation, if you will, on September 2nd. So nailing down some information on that yet, but September 2nd, 6:30, it appears we have that lined up. I will follow up one of Mike's questions. Hey, what are some bullet points that you guys are gonna wanna hear? What I'm gonna do is I'll email the board, I'll share my presentation from earlier, the levy information that we spoke about, and I'll also ask, what are some points that you'd like Mike to hit when he's up here? Mike Berry from WASBO is the abbreviation for the association, Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials. So September 2nd, 6:30, right after our learning session. So yeah, 2 weeks. As far as my report, not a whole lot outside of the audit and referendum and budgeting going on. Just, well, at least for me. Brenda's been doing a great job, right? We've got, a small group, this year of new staff coming in, getting them onboarded. And, if you haven't, take a look, at my report. Really did get some great feedback, positive feedback from the auditor before they left the district earlier this month. And so again, huge shout outs. That's not a 2-day, 1 week or even 2-week thing. That's an all year thing. To be able to get kind of that positive review. So shout out to Brenda and Ashley, who are really that day-to-day stuff of making sure people are paid, making sure that we're not getting money stolen from us.
Checks and balances.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Checks and balances.
Nice thing to have.
Yeah, so they're doing a great job with that. So big shout out there. That's what I got.
Be transitioning, I'll just touch on 2 items, although follow up what he just finished with the auditor. When I was, so there's always, I do a phone interview with the auditor, then usually one of the other auditors just swings by the office in person as they're wrapping up. And when I was having the in-person conversation, and I shared even kind of the unique nature, right, of how we're covering the high school and so I'm doing some different approvals. I shared with the auditor how we have talked with the business office. So rather than have a high school principal approve something and then me as the superintendent, the way we might traditionally do part of those checks and balances, Andy, to your point, where we've done some shifting because we're trying to lessen the load as much as possible on most of the staff. And so I'm going to do certain approvals that normally the principal would do, and then we're basically subbing Jake in as the next level, where normally we'd have me as district office person. Well, it's going to be Jake since I'm kind of filling the principal checkbox role on that. So even that, he's like, wow, that is great. You guys are thinking about, so that's not reflected in the current audit, but the fact that he acknowledged that we acknowledged that, and we're thinking about that in advance, not, oh boy, after there's a problem. He's like, no, that's really great. And that fits with what we're seeing with this year's audit, that we're really in a good place. Not that there aren't always things to work on, but so anyway, good news. And I think you as our elected officials need to hear. The 2 items, I'll hit on the one way at the end of my report first. Jake touched on it earlier with our Howden reps, right? Our insurance and more consultants. So we've set up dates after the referendum, right? Just to allow the proper process to play out. And so the board knows that's important, and Jake and I understand that. We have a date on November 18th, after school on December 16th, and after school on January 13th, where the Howden reps, who Jake, Brenda, and I met with, will come in, and we will have teachers involved in the compensation committee. We can share that too, as far as any board reps that might be interested to talk a little bit about strategy around health insurance, at what point is maybe something like self-funded or what comes before that, to then really position the district and our staff well. And that ultimately, if we can achieve savings that, as a district, well, yes, we'd like to save, ultimately, as much of that as possible could be used in other categories of compensation, that would be great. So anyway, work through that process. And then I also have earmarked our usual annual compensation review meeting then to follow that. So that series of 3 meetings is going to happen first, right? Because some of that will obviously impact our usual meeting that I'm targeting Monday, February 1st for. And then simply because I can't help myself, I know that I always have at least a couple of weather backup dates. So February 2nd and February 8th, in case we happen to have a snow, cold, ice day on February 1st. So that is in process. And I've shared that information with the teacher reps. Wasn't going to bother the board too much with that right now, because I know where your focus is with referendum and maintenance and other things. And I'll finish with the community survey, not with some of the obvious points, but sometimes people wonder what goes into that. And, the weighted support is powerful, which is why we go with an expert like that. Sometimes people wonder, and this was those of you in attendance 2 weeks ago, and Bill was impressed, like, well, who took our survey, right? Some are Indoor County. Right, so maybe some of the families or staff percentage isn't as high as it might be during the school year. However, we had, right, 50% of our respondents were 65 or older, which is a critical group to have representation. In that 55 to 64-year-old range, we had 14% of the respondents. Next category down, 45 to 54, 15% of respondents. Next category down, 35 to 44, 14% of respondents. So amazing the pretty consistent groupings we had in those decades. They do have a breakdown for 25 to 34-year-olds. No surprise, that was the lowest, but 6%. We did at least have a snapshot of the younger folks. And we had 1% of 18 to 24-year-olds. So I'm sure they're all working or doing something busy in the summer here in North County, but we at least got some response. So I was interested. Bill, as you know, was very impressed that we got such a good representative sample from Sturgeon Bay. And of course, we know that makes sense in Door County with people of different retiree age. And then I'll just hit on one more of these slides. I was pulling some out of the big presentation for the staff presentation coming up next week. But like, what about, sometimes people wonder, well, are the staff overly represented? And of course, we know the staff percentage was actually a little lower than usual. 87% of those who responded do not work for the district. Okay, so that's important in the overall scheme. But you also know, as Bill explained, he puts a weighted average, right? It's really kind of 80% of that. The calculation is people who are residents in our community who do not work for the district and do not have, kids in school. So again, we had a very good sample there, which is why we can feel good about the data they have given us. Not that anything is perfect, but we know from the 2 previous survey projects they gave, boy, it was spot on. And as long as we listen to what the community tells us and do our work, it was favorable results. So I just thought I'd share those 2, because some of those facts sometimes get lost. People jump ahead to, oh, who said yes, and 60% of this, and I thought I'd share that.
Dan, I know that was
Stop talking.
there was the percentage of respondents was what it was.
Yeah.
But he gave a figure, I think, on how accurate school perceptions forward projections are, and I felt like he said it was in the 90%. It was?
94 seems to be the number.
That one, yeah, so it just, thinking of everything you just mentioned, and then how they do weight those responses, it is very meaningful data.
Well, I would say even the weighted response calculation that they do now, that continues to develop.
Yeah.
When we did this, I'm gonna say 5 years ago, technically you would know it, that wasn't quite 5 years ago, okay? They didn't word it with the weighted response, but they made a big deal about, okay, here are your folks who are residents, don't work for the district, don't have kids in school, here's the percentage. Here are your residents who are, say, parents, and if a staff member is also a parent and a resident, okay, that count, so you gave 2 different numbers, okay? Almost exactly the midpoint was very close to where the election results came in at 58.6% of voters approving the referendum, right? It wasn't to the 10th of a point, but it was within, I think, a couple tenths of a point. I think I talked about this back in June, so it's not fresh in my mind. The point is, it is very accurate information if you, first of all, construct it properly so people have a chance to be informed and give feedback. And the questions are worded in such a way to give the board good results, right? We can word it lots of ways and it might not be helpful, as we talked about with those extra questions. If we didn't word that right, you'd be like, great, what do we do with this, right? So if you do that properly and then construct the question you actually take to the voters accordingly, the results are, very close to your point. Are there districts that don't listen to the survey results? Yes. And I know 2 of those exact cases. One of whom may or may not be that far away from where we're sitting right now. And then you can pass that maybe, like with a capital referendum, but then what happens after? Exactly what the experts would predict, unfortunately, for that community, which is too bad. So anyway, we need to listen, as I know you are. I'll stop there.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Commissioner Starmy, the motion to adjourn, Commissioner Wynn seconded it. Further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Very well.
Thank you.
Aye.
Well, I think.
Yeah, Mike and
Sign the one.